So we're planting seeds. We may not see the benefit of it right away, but if I could plant a seed over here and plant, eventually it's gonna grow.
So Antoinette, can you tell me, what does it mean to be a change agent for education?
Sure. So when I think about change agent, I think about those things that are disruptive, right? So you're going against the tradition or going against those things that are the norm. And so when I think about my role currently as an educational consultant, but previously as an educator in the school buildings daily, looking for ways to just do things different, right? And so that requires being innovative, creative, and ruffling some feathers, right? But it's all because there's a need to do something different to help students get what they need and to have the experience that they need. And so oftentimes I found myself in situations where I was the only person pushing or advocating for certain changes. But I was able to go home and sleep at night knowing that I was doing it for the kids. And so that's, you know, the idea of a change agent, doing those things different and against the norm.
Right, standing up and being that one person who's advocating for change. Do you find that teachers typically don't want to change because it means more work for them? Or they just are so stuck on traditional learning, just doing what's necessary? Does that make a difference in helping them to become change agents as well? Yeah,
I think, well, let me back up. Anyone who went into teaching wanted to go in helping kids and doing things and changing the world through empowering young people. No one ever set out to say, I'm just going to be a mediocre or you know, middle of the line teacher. But I think because our systems are so entrenched with certain policies, procedures, structures that really don't allow teachers to have the flexibility or innovation that they go into, knowing that we're marginalizing children of color through these systems and structures we have. When you're that teacher trying to push against a system that for hundreds of years has been in place, if you don't have the support of your leadership or your, you know, in the form of your principal or the
community,
district
government,
or government, right? You get tired, right? And it's hard to swim upstream. And so I don't think it's a matter of will in the cases of the teachers. I just think they just need someone to give them permission to do it and then create the space for them to do it. And so I feel that if teachers felt that they were going to be supported to be creative and innovative and to be disruptors, they would be willing to do it, but they would also like some additional support on how to do it, right? I know I got to do it, I just don't really know how to do it. So help me to do that. And I think that if we put those things in place, we will begin to see some things shift. But right now, some teachers are feeling that they're the only person doing it, and they don't want to necessarily take that risk.
By themselves.
That they may lose their job. They, you know, may be shunned upon. May, you know, get some backlash, reprimanded, all of that. So they just kind of just stay in the lane. And do what they've been doing or what, you know, people are accustomed to.
You all were talking about identity, which I thought was very interesting. I never heard anything like that before. How children have different identities. They may be several identities. They may be a brother, a son, a soccer player. They may be a musician, and they have all these identities that they carry with them to school each day. And it was said that you want to get to a point where students can come to school to just be a student. Can you elaborate on that and talk about identity in the classroom?
Yeah, so it's like us as adults, we assume many roles, right? So we, myself, African American woman, educator, mom, wife, woman of faith, sister.
And those are all identities.
These are all those things that define who I am, right, as a person. And in any given space that I go in, one of those identities may be more pronounced than the other, right? It may show out or show up stronger than others. So, for instance, if I'm at home, I'm mom, right? And so we want to get to the place in our schools where students don't have to compromise who they are. They don't have to compromise their ethnicity. They don't have to compromise their racial identity, their gender identity. They don't have to compromise the type of learner that they are, or what they are interested in. They can come and be their full self and be valued
and validated
and
right.
affirmed and feel empowered to just be myself, right? But we have situations now where kids are not allowed, if I speak dual languages, I'm not allowed to speak my home language. You have to speak English. Or if I'm a transgender young person, well, we don't have the space or the accommodations for you, or we don't want to recognize you by your pronouns. And so what you're saying to that child is that I don't value you because this is one part I don't want to recognize, or this is one part that we're not going to allow into the classroom. Well, how can I be half a person? or at least feel valued in a situation, and then you want me to respect you as the authority or the leader, and you want me to feel as if this is a place where I'm going to be I'm going to learn and get some things in place. It doesn't happen that way, because now I'm half a person. I'm not that person that I want to truly be, and I don't trust you, because you don't recognize me for who I am.
You don't value me.
You don't
for
value
who I
me,
am.
right? So why am I here?
Absolutely.
Right, and so we have to get to that point where, even though I may not necessarily be comfortable with some of the things that come into my space as an educator or as a leader of a building, I still have to recognize that it's important that if I want to have an inclusive environment, if I want to create equitable learning environments for all students, I have to be able to allow them to show up in these spaces.
So no matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, transgender, just be a student. Just for the adult to recognize that individual as a student,
as a learner,
and value them,
for who they are, their whole self, right? Which means that as a teacher, as an educator, there's some things I may have to push back on within self that is becoming a barrier for these students, because I don't carry the same value system, or I don't necessarily identify with you. And so how do I check myself to make sure that I'm not doing harm to these young people, but actually allowing my space to be safe for everybody? And that's what we want to do. We always talk about having physical safe space for adults and for students, but we also need to talk about this psychological, socially emotional space for them, right? And if I can't be safe being a Black young person in a classroom, then I don't want to sit there and learn in a space where I don't feel safe.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be there.
So that actually, I think, goes into my next question is, you talked about bias. Go into that. Like, we all have different biases, and we don't realize we have, and they show up when we come against or come in front of something that is not like us.
Exactly.
So
biases, Angela says that biases are strong opinions about something, right? And we all have opinions about something, very strong opinions. It may not necessarily be, the best opinion about something, depending on the situation, the context, but it still belongs to you, right? And so one thing that we have to be comfortable with as adults is that we all have biases. We're human. As long as you're living and breathing, you will have a bias, right? Because things are always changing. We all have different ways and perspectives of looking at things. So I'm coming in with a opinion about something, right? I'm coming in with an idea about something, and this may actually be contrary to the group of people I'm serving, the community in which I'm serving. So I have to recognize that, hey, this may not necessarily be what's in the best interest of, the community in which I serve. So case in point, when I was I use this example in the session, when I was a principal, I came in as a middle class African-American woman as a leader in a school in Detroit where the students didn't necessarily have a middle class value, right? And so lots of things, ways that I learned, the things that I processed, I thought that everybody else was going to do that same thing, right? And that's how they should operate, and that should be the norm. And so I was pushing my values onto other young people who weren't necessarily, privy to that. And I was actually becoming a barrier for them. So I gave the example of homework. That was a big thing for us. You get home from school, you take your school clothes off, you sit down at the table, do your homework.
That's schedule of things you do.
That's what I did.
That lead
right?
up to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you finish, you can have a snack. Okay.
Right.
I'm thinking, well, everybody probably has that same experience too. Little did I know that was not the case. And this is when I first started, and I had to realize that my way of learning and growing up, became a hazard to this young people I was serving, because I didn't take the time to learn them, their community, their familiar structure. And so these policies and rules I was putting in place actually was hindering their progress. And so I said all that to say, once you know that there is something within you that may be hindering you connecting with others, or having a genuine relationship, or understanding people, you need to ask yourself, why do I feel that way? Why do I think that way? Why am I behaving that way? And understand that this is a bias.
Yeah.
So I'm checking this bias, understanding it exists. How do I do and overcome that so I can be better for others?
Right. How do you change the mindset, or how do you let a teacher know that, hey, you're being biased? Because some people will be like, well, I'm not doing that, or and I would never do that.
Yeah.
How do we get people to understand that your biases are hindering the children?
Yeah.
And it's actually hindering the teaching process.
Right. So great question. I always tell people, ground it in data, right? So what does your student work say? What does your assessment data say? What does your walkthrough observational data say? What are the students doing in the classroom when you come in as a leader, observing? What are the lesson plans? What kind of activities are embedded in this lesson plan? Are they, very low level? Are they, pushing students to another way of thinking? All of these are tangible talking points, right, that you can present to a person, because just to come out the gate and say, hey, you're biased. Whoa, well, wait a minute, where's the evidence? Right? So people want to know, why do you make that assumption? So when you have these things and then start to ask questions, help me to understand how you designed this lesson. Help me to understand why was this comment made when the student did this. Help me to understand, why these certain students are grouped this way versus over here. So then you begin to have them kind of talk through, their actions, and then with the talking through, the idea is that they will
recognize their own bias,
have the light bulb moment, right? Like, oh, I never thought about that, and then you could push a little further. Could it be that maybe you believe that students, this group of students can't do this?
Don't have the ability, the same ability.
Exactly. So now you're talking through and helping them to understand, but just to have a conversation with a person without grounding it in something is not going to get you anywhere. And so start there, and I say it's almost like a less threatening, entry into the conversation, because it is difficult.
Instead of just coming up and saying, you're being biased, you're not treating the kids the same, blah, blah, blah. Go in with an approach of, let me see your lesson plan. Let me see what's going on. Why are you having difficulties here or there? And let's talk through why or what we can change. And then, like you said, the light bulb comes on and they recognize, I need to make some changes.
And when that light bulb comes, you get a couple of reactions. They get defensive, because now I know within myself that maybe I am doing some harm, but I don't want to come out.
I don't want to admit
it just yet. So I'm going to go on the defensive, right? Or it could be the opposite, like, oh my goodness, I never knew, and so, I don't want to do that anymore. Help me to get better, right? So you could get a couple of responses, but the idea is to help people to self-recognize, so that they can begin to do some things differently and begin to think differently.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and common sense learning?
Sure. So I always have to calculate my hand, but I think it's like 26 years in education. All of it has been in K-12, with the exception of 5 years where I've been an educational consultant, which, after stepping out of the principalship 5 years ago, made the the leap of faith to start the own consulting company called Common Sense Learning, which actually was birthed from me writing a book entitled Truth Transforms Education.
Okay.
And this book was really just a chronicle of ideas, things that I learned in my first couple of years as a principal, that I said, even if I can't get in front of a new leader, I can at least put something down so they can look at it, and maybe that'll help them along the way, and they won't make as many mistakes or hit their head up against the wall as hard as I did.
As hard as you did, you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to empower, give them just something. Look, you're not by yourself.
Right.
This is something we all go through.
Yes.
So that was the whole premise of the book, and so from that I said, well, not only do we have this book that can reach, corners of the world, but, let's make myself available to others to just come in and be that thought partner, to be that listening ear, to be that person who you can tell things to, who can help you create, some things in your building to do what's best for kids that may not be available by the district, right? So this whole notion of just, I call it common sense because a lot of things we're doing, it's not rocket
That was
science.
going to be that was going to be my next question. Like, doesn't everyone have common sense when it comes to like what you should do, how you should act, how you should care, how you should teach?
Yeah. So the tagline for the company is just that simple, right? And my grandmother would say, common sense is not common to everybody, and that's real, right? We make these assumptions that people in certain roles that are certain ages know how to do certain things.
Right.
It's like wisdom. Wisdom doesn't necessarily come with age. Wisdom comes with experience, right? And so you can have a very wise young person who can school some older people. And so that's the idea behind the company is that, listen, this is not hard for us to do, right? And we trying to make this more complicated than what it really is. It's about getting down to understanding people and building genuine relationships and loving what you do. And supporting the young people who are in front of you every day.
I think in almost everything that we do as individuals, the most important thing, in my opinion, is building that relationship.
Absolutely.
Because if I can build a relationship with you, then you trust me.
That's right.
And then you want to build that relationship back, and you want to gain my trust. So now we're working together on the same level.
That's right.
And so I think you're right when you say some people don't have common sense. But we have to be examples of what that looks like.
Exactly.
And what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
It's thinking about yourself. How do you want to be treated when you go into any space, right? How do you want to be looked upon? How do you want people to talk to you, to receive you? All of that, right? So just think about that space. And if that's how you want to be received and to be treated and how to be talked to, why not give that same courtesy to the next person, be it a little person or an adult, right? And so let's just start there, and that is just getting down to the basics, right? The treat others like you want to be treated.
Do unto others as you, yes, it's just what we've been taught our whole lives.
Exactly.
So you're here at the EDLIFE Summit. A great experience.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about EDLIFE? How do you feel about Angela Prince? Tell us about your connection with her, your relationship.
Yeah. So Angela and I met in Detroit. We were both educators, and we, even though we didn't meet necessarily in Detroit doing the same kind of work, we were charged to be consultants on a project together, and so we actually met in LA, even though we're both from Detroit, and that's how we connected. And I will say the one thing that I love about Angela is that she's dedicated to making things different.
Right.
And I've always been the person to say, I'm going to support first and foremost Black businesses, right? Be it a female or male, I just want to support my people, to empower us to begin to do some things and to just take a stand and to be recognized for the people we are.
Right.
Great, powerful minds who can rock the world.
Right.
And so that was the first thing. But knowing that she was dedicated and she had a heart for children, she loved God, wanted to just do some things, I said, why not support? Why not help? Not to mention, I mean, individually, she's a great person, but professionally,
Yeah.
you know, we aligned.
Yeah.
And so I always told her, I said, whatever you need me to do, just let me know. I got you. You don't have to pay me because we got the same vision.
Yeah.
We're getting the work done.
Right.
That's all that matters to me,
Right.
right? If we can disrupt and change and do things for kids, count me in,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I know that this work is a ministry, right? So we're planting seeds. We may not see
Amen.
the benefit of it right away,
Right.
but if I could plant a seed over here and plant,
Yes.
eventually it's going to grow.
Absolutely.
And somebody's going to reap the benefit.
Yeah.
And so that's how I look at this work. You
Yeah.
know, I go different places, meet different people, don't know why, but I know it's for a reason and a purpose. And
Right.
so there's no such thing as a happenstance or coincidence. It's all in order.
Yeah.
And so, you know, me just working with her, doing some things with her has done nothing but build my capacity and helping me become stronger as a person and an educator. But just seeing how we are having people say, I'm so glad I met you. Thank you for sharing. And I said, okay, we did our job.
Right.
If you just hit one person,
Right.
then you've done more than not doing anything at all.
Let me ask you this really quick, and then do you think people or teachers, I'm going to say educators, teachers, leaders, need to move with more intention and
Absolutely.
not just, this is what I do every day, this is how we do things, this is how things have been done, maybe have some true intention behind how they move forward?
Yeah, I think because of the noise, I call it the noise, all the stuff around us, we tend to lose sight of the
Yeah.
North Star, right?
Yeah.
What was our purpose? What's our passion? What
Yes.
grounded me in the first place? Why did I make this journey to become a teacher? First of all, we know we ain't getting paid.
Right, right.
So when you get
obviously
into
you
it,
didn't take the job
you
for the
ain't
money.
you ain't taking it for the money.
Yes.
But why did you become who you wanted to become?
Yeah.
You know, this teacher,
Yeah.
this educator. Find that purpose, find that why, and you stay grounded in that, because when stuff start getting crazy and people start talking and things start going sideways, you got to encourage yourself.
Yeah.
You got to go back and say, I came into this for this particular reason. And because of that, I'm going to stay no matter what happens. I'm going
Right.
to stay grounded
Right.
because this is greater than anything I could ever do in my life.
Absolutely.
And the impact is going to be generations beyond my life here on earth. And so that's what you have to kind of remind people. And when you lose that, then it's time for you to walk away. And there's nothing wrong with walking away,
Right.
because everything has a season, right? And so when your season is over, you walk away so that you don't do harm. But you stay grounded and you remember why you do what you do. And so that's that intentionality with
Yeah.
teachers, right? Yeah, I hear what the district's saying, I hear what the public is saying, I hear what the politicians are saying, but why you do what you do?
Right.
And once you stay there and you reignite and you encourage yourself with that, then you will find the strength,
Right.
the courage to continue
To begin to set your intentions
right.
again, because I'm sure
right.
initially everyone has intentions.
absolutely.
Everyone, but like you said, the noise
That's the
kind
noise.
of you kind of get lackadaisy.
Yeah.
You no longer have
Right.
that same intention.
Right.
Sometimes teachers are just showing up.
Right, and you tired of getting beat down. And I would say over the past 2 years, you know, because of COVID, teachers is like, why, what in the world is
Right.
happening? But I tell them all the time, you made it through that.
Yeah.
You were resilient. And that says a lot about who you are and why you do this
And
work.
you came back.
And you came back.
Because a lot of people didn't come back.
That's right. That's right. So this is a lot.
Well, thank you, Dr. Antoinette Pearson.
No problem.